All right, so we're going to review place value again. So we did a video yesterday. Let me fix this. Okay, so here's your place value. All of these, here's your decimal. All of these to the left are whole numbers. Ones, tens, hundreds, comma, one, 10, 100, 1,000, comma, 1, 10, 100, million, comma, 1, 10, 100, billion. Those are all your whole numbers. Then you have your decimal, which always says and. The decimal always says and. Then you have your decimal numbers to the right side of the decimal. There's the tenths, the hundredths, and the thousandths. So the first number to the right of the decimal is the tenths place. The second number to the right of the decimal is the hundredths place. And the third number to the right of the decimal is the thousandths place. So I'm going to go through an assignment you did yesterday for practice. And you will have an assignment today that is exactly the same, but it's a different page number. So it's a little bit different. So let's look at it. It says, last month, 6.75 inches of snow fell on Fairbanks, Alaska, which shows a way to represent the value of the 5 in the number. So 6.75, that 5 is the second place to the right of the decimal. So if you look at your chart, the second number to the right of the decimal is the hundredths. Okay, hundredths is represented in two ways. It could be 0.01 or 1 over 100. Get it? Hundredths. Tenths is either 0.1, which is 1/10, or 1 over 10. Oops. Thousandths is 0.001, because it's the 1 to a third digit, so the 1 is the third place, or 1 over 1,000. Okay, so this is how they are represented. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Okay? All right. So if the 5 is in the second place to the right of the decimal, the second place to the right of the decimal is the hundredths place. All right. So A says 0.5, which is tenths. So that one's not it. C says 5 times 100. Well, times 100 is a whole number. So that one can't be it. Then we have B, 5 times 1 over 10, which is the tenths place. And D says 5 times 1 over 100. So since we're in the hundredths place, 1 over 100 would be correct. All right. This number 1 on this side says the atomic mass of lithium is 6.941. That's 6 and 941 thousandths, because the last digit ended in the thousandths place, which shows a way to represent the value of the 4 in this number. So we're looking at this digit right here. So the second digit to the right of the decimal, which is the hundredths place, which is either 1 over 100 or 1/100ths. Okay, so if you look at A, it says 4 times 0.1. Well, that's 1 place past the decimal, which means that's the tenths place. So that's out. Okay, C says 4 times 1 over 1,000. Well, if I take and I put a decimal where the 1 is, and then 3 place values, that 4 is not in this third place value. That's a thousandths place. So that's out. B says 4 times 1 over 10, which is the same thing. 1 is the decimal, the 0 is the place value. It says 6.941. So this would be incorrect as well, which means our answer is D, 0.00. So 6.94 is in the hundredths place, and then the 1 is in the thousandths place. So that means our answer is also D. Okay? Now, let's look at the next set of numbers. So I'm going to fold this over so you can still see the place value chart. All right, Felix is thinking of a decimal number. The value of the 7 in this number is equivalent to 7 times 0.001. So look at where that 1 is. Which value, or which could be the number of which Felix is thinking, which means this 7 is going to take the place of the 1. So it has to be 0.007, which means any number I'm looking for has to have a 7 in that very last digit. Okay, so this is 4.871. Nope, that 7's not in that last digit. 7.062. This is in the whole number. That's the ones place. 3.897. 7 in the last digit, so that's a possibility. 5.723. Okay, the 7 wasn't in the first digit to the right. It was in the last digit. So that means my answer is H. Okay. All right. Miss Clemmer wrote 0.762 in expanded notation as shown, which shows another way to express the value of the 2 in 0.762. All right, so the 2 is in the last place, so it's in the thousandths place. So what's the value of the 2? It's worth 2, we know that. Is it thousandths, hundredths, wholes, or tenths? Okay, the answer was F. It's in the thousandths place. All right, let's look at number 3. A teacher wrote the decimal number below and then underlined a digit. Okay, so we got 93 and 68 hundredths, which is not, look at this, not a way to represent the value of the underlined digit. Okay, so 0.6, so that's what we're looking at, 0.6. So which place value is this 6 going to be in? The tenths, the hundredths, or the thousandths? What place value is that 6? Okay, you should have said tenths because it's the first place to the right of the decimal. So that means if I'm looking at my answer choices, A is not 0.6. It's not the same thing, is it? So that one's out. B says 6 times 1 over 10. 6 is in the tenths place. All right, so let's look. 6 is in the tenths place, so 1 over 10 would be correct. Oh, sorry. 1 over 10 would be correct. 6 times 1/10, 0.1. That one's correct. 6 tenths, 0.6. That would be correct. So that means the one that is not is A. It is not represented the correct way. All right, let's look at number 3 over here. Richard wrote a decimal number on a sheet of paper. The value of the 5 in the number was equivalent to 5 times 0.1, which could be the number Richard wrote. That means this 5 is going to replace that 1. So it would look like this, 0.5. So which one of these has a 5 in the tenths place? Okay, you should have said C. This 5 is in the ones place. This 5 is in the thousandths, tenths, hundredths, thousandths place. This 5 is in the hundredths place. The only one that has a 5 in the tenths place is C. All right. Next one. Jillian measured the mass of her empty backpack and found it to be 0.428 kilograms, which shows a way to represent the value of the 8 in this digit. So we're looking at the 8, which is the last number. So if it's the last number, which digit would it be? Tenths, hundredths, or thousandths? What would the factors look like? 1 over 10 and 0.1, 1 over 100, 0.01, 1 over 1,000, 0.001. So the 8, which one of these represents the 8? Okay, so 8 times 1 over 100 is the hundredths place. The 8 is not in the hundredths place. 8 times 1 over 10 means it's in the tenths place. The 8 is not in the tenths place. H says 8 times 1 over 1,000. The 8 is in the thousandths place. J says 8 times 0.01, which is the hundredths place. In which number below is the value of the 2 equal to 2 times 1 over 10? Which one of these shows a 2 times 1/10. Okay, should be B. This one, the 2 is in the ones place, hundredths place, tens place. Here on B, it's in the tenths place, the first place to the right of the decimal. Marco wrote 0.235 in expanded notation is shown. 2 times 1/10, 3 times 1 over 100, 5 times 1 over 1,000, which shows another way to express the value of 3 in the number 0.235. What place is that 3? All right, so if you replace the 1 with a decimal and each one of those zeros with a place value holder, the 3 has to go in the last place value holder. So it's going to go back here, and you're going to fill in the hole with a 0. So 0.03 would have been correct. G. Okay. Rashida added 2 decimal numbers. She wrote the sum in expanded notation and underlined a section, which shows another way to represent the value of the underlined section. So 3 times 0.001. What's another way to write that? Okay, 3 times 1 over 1,000. Okay, because that 1 is in the thousandths place. And last one, in which number is the value of the 8 equal to 8 times 1 over 100? Which one of these shows 8 in the hundredths place? Okay, should have marked B. A, it has it in the thousandths place, the third place past the decimal. C, it's in the tenths place, the first place to the right of the decimal. And D, it's in the hundred. Okay, it's in the hundred place. Ones, tens, hundreds. And B, it's in the hundredths, THS, means to the right of the decimal. Okay? All right, so the next page of your notes, you need to start in the very next blank page, and you're going to put compare and order decimals. Sorry, decimals. Okay? You compare, line up the decimal, compare by the whole number, and then the decimal. So here are your symbols for comparing, just like we did with whole numbers, greater than, less than, equal to. Remember, the less than symbol makes the sideways L, greater than, and then equal to is, of course, the equal sign. So basically, you're going to line them up. So if I have the example of 4 57/100 and 4 57/1000, I'm going to take one of my numbers, and usually the number on the left, and I'm going to slide it over here, and I'm going to line it up. Lining up the decimal. So there's a 4 on the whole number, and then 5 is in the tenths place, 7 is in the hundredths place. Okay, after you've done that, you're going to fill in all the holes. Oops. All the holes with 0. Okay, so after you've done that, after you've lined them up, you're going to fill in all the holes with zeros. So I'm going to fill in this hole with a 0. And now I'm going to compare, starting at the whole number. 4 and 4 are the same. Decimals are lined up. 0 and 5 are not the same. 5 is bigger. So it came from this side. So 4 57/100 is greater than 4 57/1000. Okay, 32 46/100 greater than, less than, or equal to 32 406/1000. So we're going to take this number and we're going to line it up over here. Line up my decimal. 32, it goes on the left. It's a whole number. The 4 is in the tenths place. 6 is in the hundredths place. I'm going to fill in the hole and compare. Whole numbers, 3 and 3 are the same. 2 and 2 are the same. Decimals are lined up. 4 and 4 are the same. 0 and 6 are not the same. 6 is bigger. Came from this side over here, so this is our answer. 32 46/100 is greater than 32 406/1000. All right. Now we're going to look at this one. We're going to compare. I'm going to take this number and I'm going to slide it over. Decimals are lined up. 204 is the whole number. 204, so I'm going to line it up. 204. 0 is in the tenths. 5 is in the hundredths. 9 is in the thousandths. And I'm going to compare, starting at the whole number. The biggest whole number is 2 and 2. They're the same. 0 and 0. 4 and 4. Decimals are lined up. 0 and 0 are the same. 6 and 5. 6 is bigger. So that means less than. 204 and 59 thousandths is less than 204 and 67 thousandths. So that is comparing. All you're going to do is line up your decimals and then line up your place values. You got to make sure your place values are lined up. And then you're comparing, start at the biggest place value. All right, when you're ordering decimals, you're going to line up the place values and compare from the biggest place value. Also, make sure you line up decimals. Okay, and then you're going to put them in order from either greatest to least or least to greatest, depending on what it's asking you. All right, so make sure you've got that in your journal. And let's look. This is not the assignment that you have for today, but this is an example of it. So Chelsea made 3 clay pots. The first weighed 10.75 or 10 and 75 hundredths pounds. The second weighed 10.95, which is 10 and 95 hundredths pounds. The third weighed 10 and 8 tenths pounds, which shows a correct comparison of the weight of the first and third pot. Well, the first one weighed 10.75. The second weighed 10.95, so I don't need that one. That's extra information. And the third weighed 10.8, so I'm at 10.8. And so we're comparing greater than, less than. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to move it over here. Line up my decimals. All right. Fill in the hole. 1 and 1 are the same. 0 and 0. Decimals are lined up. 8, 7. 8 is bigger. So that means 10 and 8 tenths is bigger. Okay, so that means the mouth, remember, opens to the bigger number. I hate to say that, but that's the way it goes. So we're going to look for something that's similar to this. And this one says 10 and 75 hundredths is bigger. And 10 and 95. That wasn't even part of the problem. 10.75 is bigger than 10.8. Nope. 10.75 is less than 10 and 8 tenths. Okay, that's an option. 10 and 8 tenths is less than 10 and 95 hundredths. That wasn't even an option, so my answer is C. Gayla and Maya wrote 2 decimal numbers. Which correctly compares the largest number that Gayla wrote to the smallest number that Maya wrote? So you have to compare these 2 sets of numbers and these 2 sets of numbers. So I'm going to fill in the hole with a 0. 5 and 5, 4 and 4, 2 and 1. So this is bigger. So 54 and 2 tenths. Now we're going to look at okay, now I'm sorry. Which correctly compares the largest number that Maya wrote. Oh, sorry, Gayla. Now to the smallest number that Maya wrote. So now we're going to look at the smaller number. These are correct, so we're going to just mark them out. 5 and 5 are the same. 4 and 4. 2 and 2. 2 and 0. 0 is smaller. So this one is 4.20. Well, if you compare these are exactly the same. If I add a 0, they're exactly the same. So they are equal. Okay, number 2, Lamont wrote comparisons P, Q, R, and S in the boxes below. P, Q, R, and S. Which comparison is not correct? All right, so let's compare. 0.58. So 0 and 0 are the same. 5 and 5 are the same. 7, 8. 8 is bigger. So that one is correct. Okay, so I'm going to take this one and I'm going to move it over. 0.95. 1 and 0. Well, 1's bigger. So that one's correct. Now, 4 tenths and 30 hundredths. So I'm going to move the 4 tenths over. So 0.4. I'm going to fill in the hole with a 0. 0 and 0 are the same. 3 and 4 are not the same. 4 is bigger. All right, so look at this. Should it be opening to the 3 or should it be opening to the 4? It should be this one. So Q is the one that is not correct. If I move this one over, 0.60, fill in this hole with a 0. These are the same all the way across. Okay, so this is basically what you're going to be doing on today's assignment. This is not the same one, but it's very, very similar. Compare the numbers shown here. Which symbol should Ching write in the circle to make the comparison correct? So I'm going to take this number and I'm going to move it. 719.43. So we're going to compare. 7 and 7 are the same. 1 and 1. 9 and 9. 4 and 4. 4 and 3. 4 is bigger. So this is the symbol, which is less than. H. All right. A prospector found less than 0.3 ounces of gold dust in nuggets in the stream in the mountains, which could be the exact number of ounces of gold she found. So we're looking for a number less than 0.3. All right, so 0.3, if we had to fill in this number here, it would be a 0. So we're looking for a number less than 30. So 33 is not less than 30. 40 is not less than 30. 30 is exactly 30, so it's not less than. 25 is less than. So our answer would be D, 25 hundredths. The list shows 4 girls ran a distance of 50 yards, which correctly compares Valerie's time to Shelly's time. So we're only looking at Valerie and Shelly. So I'm going to disregard the other 2 numbers. So I'm going to look 7.725. Yep. 7.705. That one's out because that was this girl's time. 7.725. 7.73. Okay, I'm going to look at that one. 7.725. 7.73. Okay. 8.0, 7.73. 8.0 was one we marked out. So now I've just lowered my choices. All right. So now I'm going to take this one and I'm going to line it up over here. 725. I'm going to fill in the hole with a 0 and compare. 7 and 7, 7 and 7, 3, 2. 3 is bigger, so it should be going that way. So it can't be C. But I'm going to check. I'm going to take it and I'll move over here. 7.725. Fill in the hole with a 0. 7 and 7 are the same. 7 and 7 are the same. 3 and 2. 3 is bigger. So that is the correct one. Okay? All right. I just want you to make sure that you are taking your time working out these problems. Don't be in a rush. Okay? When you're finished with this, go and get the packet off the white table, and that's what you're working on. When you're finished with that, you're on Education Galaxy and nothing else. Okay?